So welcome. We're here with Chris Bledsoe and Dick Russell, who are both best-selling authors, and yeah, we're going to have a fascinating, I think, conversations about UFOs, consciousness, future of humanity, technology. I'm sure probably many more things. So, Dick, would you like to start?
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about being here today with Chris, and appreciate you, Kai, for coming on to get all the technical details going. And well, I'll just say that I met Chris and I met in Washington D.C. I guess a few months ago now, maybe a little more than that, when we were there for this congressional hearing, because I'm working on a book about the UAP phenomenon, and we just happened to run into each other and ended up staying in the same place, and we've become good friends. So, it's great to be here, being able to actually get into some stuff that I think hopefully you haven't covered that much in other podcasts that you've done. Your book UFO of God is a huge bestseller that you've uh, sell through Amazon and never even got a publisher for it except self-published, and it's sold a ton of copies because it's an amazing book. And that's when I first got familiar with you as well. So Chris, welcome. Good to see you today.
Thank you, Dick, and for having me. And it was, I think, September or so when we met, August last year.
Yeah, and it was right when you had quite an experience in Washington, actually
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
a group of scientists to the. Tell that story briefly. Let's maybe start there with taking these scientists out to the Library of Congress at night and doing a sky watch, and what happened?
Well, we were at the Congressional Club, or the Congress, where the Republican, what do you call it, Congressional Club, I guess. We were
Yeah,
having dinner, a little hors d'oeuvres, and it was about 25 of us in the room, with Eric Burleson and Anna Luna stopped in. But after about 10 o'clock, 10:30, the meeting kind of was over, and I think 8 or 9 scientists there wanted to go sky watching and talked me into taking them up to I was with them. I just walked with them up to the Library of Congress and walked up on the platform, up on the steps, and looked out over the lawn and the Capitol building there, and I kind of asked this phenomenon to put on a show, and it did. It appeared for about 45 minutes. It made figure eights over the White House and the Capitol building there, and everybody got to see it, and quite interesting.
I'd say so. Well, Chris, why do you think you're being contacted like this? I mean, how they're responding to you? It's pretty amazing, that this just doesn't happen to regular people, and you're just a regular guy. Uh, is there a message that they're trying to get across to somebody? Why you? Do you think?
Well, I've been asked that a million times, and I have no clue why it's doing what it does, but it's definitely attracted to wherever I go. It doesn't matter, from here to D.C. and downtown Charlottesville last spring. We had something flying over the Psy games, and pretty much everywhere. California this year with some rock stars on the coast at Dana Point, and uh, but I'm as perplexed as anyone. I just know that 20 years ago, in January, was just 19 years ago, this past January, was when it first happened to me. I was desperate and crying out to the heavens, and was shocked to see these balls of fire just appear. They're big, giant, blazing, orange, red, rotating, looked like fire. I mean, you couldn't see anything moving but the fire going around these big spears. They were about 40 or 50 feet around, each one of them. From that point on, it never stopped coming. I mean, I was crying out for help, and they came, and when they left, I had no more Crohn's disease. And from that point on, I've been able to see it almost every night of my life. If I go out, it'll look for me. If I'm not, if I quit going out for a while looking for it, it'll come in my house looking for me. It'll appear orbs inside the house.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and is there a specific message that comes through when you've been in contact with these orbs or with these beings?
Yeah. From the very first time, um, nearly 20 years ago, I say 20, it was 19 something years ago. From that very first day they took me, they showed me future events of destruction. And it was terrifying what they showed me. It was like watching a movie screen. I'm seeing Israel and Iran and the United States and the whole world at war, nuclear missiles flying each way, right? And then I saw the sun swell up in the sky until it just got so large that it flashed. And then, so they showed me all these different warnings of things and left me with a mess in my head. Like, what did I see? And what does it all mean? And here they keep coming, and I'm seeing the lights, but I'm not getting any more messages, right? And so 5 years into that, of fighting the community, the church, being ridiculed to death, and the pressure was so great that in 2012 I just went out and said I'm not going to ever talk about this again. And that's when the lady came, which it changed everything. So from that point forward, she began to tell me what it was that I was seeing for the last 5 years, what they showed me from the very beginning in 2007. And so that's when I wrote it down and sent it to the Pentagon and included it in my book, the message that she gave. But basically, she said we have a choice to go the way of destruction, which is the biblical Armageddon, and all that, which includes, almost complete destruction and very little human life left. That's the way she put it to me. But she said this. She said that the powers in the heavens had shifted, and that a new knowledge is coming, a new consciousness, the divine feminine is coming back into this world, not to replace man, but to bring back a balance and an imbalance that is happening. And that their plan was to expose the darkness and bring back peace after a time of trouble. And I think we're in that time of trouble now. I know we are. It started in 2019 because in 2019, she left again in 2012, 2013, 2 years in a row. She gave me that message, two different ones, about different things too. The healing aspect, it came in 2013. But the 2019, right on this pond right behind me, right here, I have a pond only 10 feet behind me, right there behind that window. On Easter of 2019, I walked out that door, right, just right out 10 feet back there, and this beautiful orb came out of the sky and hovered in front of me about 25 feet away for half an hour. And I filmed for 18 minutes while it was there. And that's when it told me to, and I hadn't taught in several years anything. I'd been dealing with rheumatoid arthritis really bad and was very sick. Was on chemotherapy, 150 pounds, in the bed, barely could move. Stumbled out the door that night, 2019, Easter, that weekend. This orb comes out of the sky, and I could barely walk, Dick. I was so weak. So I walked through that door and out to the water. Just a few steps, I'm at the water, and I just couldn't stand long. So I dropped down to my knees because as soon as I opened the door here, the orb came. And so I dropped to my knees, and I was afraid because it was acting so strange. It was flashing and spiraling and flashing, and it was coming down and coming, and it stopped right over the pond. And then here it came. It came right up to me. I didn't hear a thing that at during that time. I was just trying to film it, fumbling with my camera, looking at it, and then there was a time of I was there 30 minutes. So there was a time there that I don't really much remember. It was like a blank time in that 30 minutes, but I know it was over 30 minutes because it's on my phone. It was timestamped. So I drug myself in, went to bed. Didn't tell a soul. When I got up the next morning, my head was so full of visions and information that I couldn't contain it. So I got on the phone and I called everybody I knew. I said, I want to start doing some interviews. I called Richard Dolan, Jimmy Church, the UFO files, a whole plethora. Yeah, like 10 interviews I did. And I hadn't done one in 8 years. But I did 10 in a row that week, within 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month or so. And then I continued right on. That was early 2019, and I was warning people then to go in and lock your doors and don't come out till it's over. I didn't know what that meant at all, but she said that trouble is coming, and to tell everybody that to lock your doors until it's over. So she said. She said, but um, we're going to start. Here's what she said. She said, it's like she said in 2012. I hadn't thought about it since then. She brought it up. She said, when you see the missiles leaving Iran and Israel for each other, when you see them, and I could see in the vision the missiles coming from either direction. She said, when you see this sign will be the sign that we're going to start coming into this world, and we're going to wake the people up, and we're going to stop this before it gets too far. We're not going to let the suffering of man become too great. And she said, on top of that, we're going to make miracles happen. We're going to expose all the darkness and the evil that's happening, the deception, she called it the deception, and bring about peace. And she told me that in 2019. And so I wrote that in my book. And also, she put it in my head, Dick, and I put this in my book. And she did this back in 2013, but now it came back when she came in 2019, that she is going to come. The vision she showed me was allow me and a small team of people to film her presence. So that was the whole thing. In the desert I spoke about, somewhere in the desert, is it Egypt? Is it Utah? I'm not sure. Four Corners area, maybe. That's kind of where I'm thinking. But either way, I'm going to set sail for a while to go out in those areas and try to film. Just like Fatima. You remember the little kids told everybody after all the problems they had, the lady finally said, okay, tell everybody to come out on October 13th and we'll show them. And that's exactly what happened. 80,000 people goes out and it appears, and there wasn't the miracle. So I kind of see the same thing happening possibly this year. And so,
is there a prophecy with this Easter, or do you have any idea exactly when?
well, no, there's something about that. If you read my book, and I'm hoping that that's when all this takes place, but it's all happening already. Everything's being exposed to darkness. It's not like something will flip a switch, and tomorrow you're going to wake up and there's a big news board. That's not going to happen. It's more like a marker. It's like moving out of one age into another, or moving into a new knowledge, an awakening, disclosure, all that. But the truth about it is, we're going to learn that God is real. And that's what the whole United States, the government, the world, they teach. They teach basically atheism in college. There's no God. There's the Big Bang. Everything's by evolution. It's all from a mud puddle. It all happened by mistake. That's their official narrative. But what joys me is to see all these scientists now, and there's a whole slew of them. We're studying consciousness. Yeah, you know what consciousness is, right? That's a New Age word for God. It all comes back to the one source, to the creator, or the information, whatever that is. It could, I think of it as a big, maybe all the information's coming from the sun. Um, who knows? But it's information. We're living in some kind of simulation.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. I mean, it's very interesting that some people. I mean, you went through, of course, for many years a crisis of faith. I think, um, from what I understand and what I've read. I mean, you were saddled with these diseases and and like the Crohn's disease and other things, and you had to really you were tested, right? I mean, because you're not a typical what they call born again Christian or something. It
No,
doesn't.
no.
But you're a very religious man and very spiritual man.
Well, let's just say, let's say I was born in the Bible Belt. I was raised in the Baptist church. I married a Pentecostal holiness. That was my life, right? 46 years old. I'm crying out to God, and here comes UFOs, right? So my whole world became scrambled real bad. What happened? How did that happen? Was it alien? Was no, they were like angels. Or why does angels look like that? So I went through a million things in my brain. Why did they heal me? Why would an alien come in prayer? Why would he care to come and help me? And so I ran this through my brain, and I still do a billion trillion times in 20 years. And during that time, I've researched everything. I spend days researching, and I've gotten with biblical scholars, some of the best, Diana Pasulka, George Zervos, and many more. And we know that all those things in the sky in the Bible days were exactly what we're seeing today. And all we have is what they're saying about it. And I can tell you, it's the same thing, but I think it's more complex than we understand. I think there's a whole host of beings like us that we can't see that live and share this world with us. But there's a host of beings like the sheriff in town that's hooked our thoughts, and it kind of runs guardian over they be maybe like the traffic cops, right? They stand out in the middle and they keep everything safe. So there's a consciousness aspect, and that's these beings that are attached to your thoughts. It knows your thoughts. It knows what you're going to do before you do it. It lives with you. It's like a trickster, which some people see that as evil, but it's not. It's like Hermes. That's where he came from. He was a trickster, right? So it might trick you, so you will go where you belong to go, but even though it's not where you want to go. So you have that, and then you have these other alien things that people are seeing, and that's not been my experience. But I'm not saying that's not real, because I believe it really very much is real. It's very complex,
Yes,
but
it is.
it's yeah.
One more question from me, and then Kai, I'll give it to you too. But I mean, do you know are there people in the government that have, I mean, you're in touch with a lot of them, who have a sort of a full picture and understanding of what's going on. You know, obviously, there's a lot of talk about how they've reverse engineered technology, the military and the CIA, from crashed craft, even shot some down, even. So there's this whole, you know, government aspect to this that I know that you are connected to because you've met a number of these people and they want to know you. Can you comment
I
on that?
mean, yeah, and I'll go back to that comment earlier about being a religious person. Okay, um, or I can finish that here. But the government, I'm very deeply involved with a lot of scientists there. In fact, I'm heading to France shortly, and there's a whole group of scientists within the government that's going with me. Um, and they're all on a finding mission. They're all trying to seek and find this thing themselves. It's so elusive. The UFO thing is so elusive. It's the most elusive thing on planet Earth, other than Bigfoot, right? And it's probably more elusive than that. And I tell you, I believe that's real. I think it's probably more magical than we understand. I think it's some kind of hybrid human or hybrid something that can jump in time and come in and out of this world, like through these orbs. These orbs are beings. There are multiple in some of them. Some of them are individual. Um, but the government, uh, if they have crash retrieval stuff, and I think they do, they keep that pretty compartmentalized, and very few people have ever seen it. Um, and all you're going to get is words there. You're never going to get the truth. They're never going to show it to you because it's national security, right? And I wouldn't blame them. But they're just as curious as us, and they tag me all the time. You know, you just see a phone call from a friend at NASA. To I probably had 6 hours of conversations with people in the government this week, 8 hours maybe already this week, and it's all about this planning missions to where we can go. So if I go on this thing I was telling you about, Dick, we're going to shoot some film in the desert. I would love for you guys to come along. Kyle can come one trip with us or something. But it'll be plenty of government scientists there from different parts with us.
You know, how do you, forgive me for being a little bit cynical, but in the sense of how do you know who to trust? I mean, you had these experiences. People are always wanting something from you. Obviously, there are people who would like to manipulate you to their viewpoints on things. But that must be really tough, is it? Or is it an instinctual thing? A feed just that you have to go on the
Well,
feelings, or
I can tell you in 2007 all the way to 2017, it was terrifying because the UFO subject was top secret, classified above anything nuclear. And they didn't play no games. They would kill you if you know, I'd heard stories they had before. And I had threats on my family too about sharing anything. I have people at my house here standing right here, right where I'm sitting right now. We just added this room on. But on this very porch, I watched my wife and son in tears being threatened to their face by someone from the place I'm not going to say. And then I got on the phone and called the guy that wrote the forward in my book, Jim Semivan. And Jim is as high up as it gets in the CIA. And when I told him about it, he said, hold on. He makes a call or two, and then he calls me back, and somebody else is on the phone. And they made me a promise this would never happen again. And pretty much from that point on, I've had the problem. And then after 2017, when they declassified it, I was still afraid to talk, Dick. That's why I'd never written a book from 2007 all the way to 2022. I was afraid to because But they watched me that close, and two, if I kind of agreed not to, but it was them, it was people in the government that came to me in 2022, right after the COVID thing went away and things started getting back to halfway normal. I got a call from somebody high level and says, "You need to write a book. You got to tell your story." And then three or four others kept saying, "Your story is so important. The world needs to know it. You got to write a book. Disclosure's coming. You need to get it out there." And so that's when it all really shifted after I wrote this book. And then all these people came from other agencies. And sometimes I can stand in, I've, been in that night we were in DC. I had someone from the Department of Energy, someone from the National Science Foundation, someone from DOD, somebody from the FDA. I mean, they were all somebody from the head of the International Space Station was there with me, Donna Roberts. So they all got to see it. But now I travel with these people and we research together. So, and they know what I'm going to do. The government's fully aware of my intentions, and they're more worried about me going out and starting a religion or something. Right. And that's not what I want to do at all. And I want to say I'm not a religious person. To me, religion means man. I'm a spiritual person. I have God in my heart, and it's right here, and I don't need anyone to give it to me because I can just think, and here it comes. So we all have that power. Me, you, Franklin probably has it more than anyone. Kai, all of us. We just have, that's what Jesus said when he came, right? He wasn't a Christian. When he came here, he said, "The kingdom of God is within you. You don't need that." You look, they turned God's house into a bank and he turned their money tables over. He's like, "Why you deal with them? You can go straight to God. He's right here." Just be aware of that. And so that's where my faith has gone to, from a church that I was going to 3 days a week or twice on Sunday and every Wednesday for years, to I haven't been but twice in 15 years. But I still get up every morning at 6 o'clock and I give thanks to God, and I keep that thought in my head all day. Everywhere I go, I'm thinking about that divine connection to the Holy Spirit, the Mother, all of it. And so I walk it every day, and that's where this magic comes. Is because you realize that and you live it, and yeah. So
Kai, did you want to jump in?
Sure. Like, I actually wanted to ask you about your thoughts on disclosure. People talk about disclosure so much right now that 2026 will be the year of disclosure. Do you believe that disclosure is not as much about the government declassifying, the UFO files, but more about humanity awaking to the true nature of reality that goes beyond the
that's,
material world?
you said it 100%. Like I said earlier, the government is never going to give their secrets ever. And everybody wants that. That's all they want when they're missing the whole point. You're missing it. If you want a alien body, I doubt you'll ever get that. And if you want a spaceship, just go look at our aircraft and the technologies that we've got. That's all you're going to get from them. But if you want the truth is we've been told that we're alone for 500 years. It was only 500 years ago we learned the earth was round. This is an old place we live on. Old. Thousands and millions of years old. And civilizations go back a million years or more. We had a wheel and a horse. In fact, think about this. In 1920, the population of Earth, you know what that was? About 2 billion people. 1920. And I've heard it said when Jesus was here in 2,000 years ago, based on all the interpretation of of what we know, there was about 1.5 billion people on Earth back then. So we come into 2020, created fertilizer, and all of a sudden we bred like rats or rabbits. So we've increased our population nearly 6 billion since in 100 years. And the Bible talks about that. It says in the last days that man would multiply across the face of the earth. And um, yeah, it goes down to the knowledge would increase greatly. And so look at where we went from a horse and a wagon to we're riding rovers around on Mars and Venus. And I mean, it's just incredible what people are missing when you say disclosure. Disclosure is the fact that God is real. That's the whole thing. It changes everything. Completely changes. It'll change society completely. Why? Because we're all taught from little kids. A lot of people aren't taught about God. They're just taught about right and wrong. So you take your child to the 7-Eleven and he wants to go grab a candy bar, and you're like, no, son, you got to pay for that. No, son, you got to pay for it. And so your kids grow up knowing there's consequences for stealing that candy bar or for doing anything. I mean, we learn that as we grow old, right? From a young age. If we all knew that there was something really up there that might appear in front of you at any moment, and it does that. And the more we awaken, the more it'll do that to you. It does it to each one of us. It comes in my house and poof, there it is. So I'm least likely to go out and steal that candy bar because, or to do something sinful because I know something's watching me. Right now, we don't know that's watching us at all. Well, we do, but for the most part, the world doesn't. So as this knowledge comes into this world that we're not alone, that we have a divine connection to consciousness. To me, the orbs, these little balls of light, are just fractals of consciousness or God, ministering spirits. That's what the Bible calls them. Stars, they call them stars, they call them ministering spirits, which is just a little piece of God. And we learned that in Rosicrucians teach that, Templars, a lot of these guys.
Hopefully, we'll get to the point where people will not want to do or harm other people out of fear of God, but simply
Right.
because they just feel empathy towards everyone,
Yeah.
and it's just so they will behave well towards other people because they simply want to, not because they're afraid, right? That's
Yeah.
hopefully the place we can get to
Well,
as
that's where to go, and naturally, and um, yeah, it is so important that we realize. And here's too, Kai. What happens is something I can promise you. I used to be terribly afraid to say this. I was warned never to tell this, never. You know, um, because of the movie X-Men. You know how they treated these people. In the movie X-Men, they went out and the very guys that had superpowers, the world turned on them and went to killing them, and they had to fight for their survival. Well, when I was down in NASA way back in 2012 or 2011, I was studying with Hal Papenmeyer in 2008. So I've always had those guys somewhere around me. They made me know that they knew that one of the things that happens to people like me that has this constant experience with the UFO phenomena. And if I get you and around me very long, it'll be around you as well, guarantee it, because you'll awaken to it. You'll, oh my God, when you see it, you can't unsee it, so it'll follow you, right? But what it does, it makes us psychic. So we completely become, we start to change. We start to change inside. We become very more green, more caring for animals, more empathy. And then when we begin to get these superpowers, to where we're psychic. And that's when they start saying, okay, I want you to go do remote viewing. That's how I got involved in all that. They come and grabbed me in 2008 and brought me a remote viewing manual. And from the very beginning, because they knew that this thing triggers that in the human brain. So do they want a billion psychic people running around? You know, hard
Probably
to
not.
control that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reason why there's been so secret stuff about this. Look at Kai Dickens and look at the telepathy tapes and all this magic that's happening. Dali and Lidu and mind mapping and mind sight. People are able to see. I study with these people. I work with them or promote them, and they do me. We're at the same groups together, in the same conferences. And Diane Hennessy Powell, love her from Harvard. She's they're ostracizing her, but she's on to something that's so profound. All this is coming out right now as disclosures happening. We're beginning to see kids that can talk that are totally autistic. They're having conversations, 10 of them together, not even talking, but they all are talking to each other, and nobody knew that was happening. And Powell discovered this, Kai Dickinson, and being able to put blindfolds on your head and see and read driver's license. Everybody in the room flip up a driver's license. Lita can, or Dahlia can read it like instantly. So all this is. I'm sorry about the dog.
It's okay.
Somebody at the door. Then we got 1 second. I can go stop that. Or is this a podcast that you're going to
It's
air?
okay. Yeah, we it's a recording. We can cut it
Buddy.
out.
So I have my television screen. I have all these cameras on around the property. There's nobody here, but the dog is out there barking like crazy.
It's interesting you're talking about remote viewing and all those superpowers. I've actually experimented with remote viewing and tried to learn it, and I had some success with it. I've actually experienced the reality of it. It was really striking, and from what I learned, there's a lot of actual scientific studies showing that it's a real phenomenon.
But it is
Beyond
real.
beyond shadow of the doubt, and the government
It,
knows about it, and yet they're trying to sort of keep it away from the mainstream knowledge, which really fascinating, because if it's real, it means there's a huge part of science that we don't understand, and yet it exists, it's true, it's real.
well, let me give you an idea of all these years I've been studying this, and yeah, remote viewing. They've known it's been real from the very beginning. John Alexander is one of my best friends. He started Project Stargate and the Monroe Institute, and Tom Campbell is a very close friend of mine. Tom helped start the Monroe Institute. Joe McMonagle, love him. Very sick, right? He's on the mend right now. He just had an operation, but yeah, it's so real. I know groups of people that make a lot of money that remote view for corporations, gold, oil, minerals. It happens every day. There's whole groups that can do it. Um, uh, but imagine this. Imagine this. People ask me, how do you make the phenomenon appear? And I hate it when they say, oh, he summons this stuff. No, that suggests I have power over something, right? Well, there's no summoning coming from me. It's not that at all. It's simply uh, uh, it's a way that I connect my heart to my thought. So if I said, "Dick, I love you," but I was really joking, you know, that would be a very bad thing to say because I would be lying, even though Dick received it that I love him, right? So you can't do that. You can't say things and not mean it. And when you say a prayer, you have to mean it. When and it becomes a thought then. So instead of summoning, I start thinking about it, how beautiful it is, how I love the interaction, how it has been a great guide for me and helps with healing other people. Um, and so I keep that thought all the time. And when I walk out the door, I just think. I don't even have to do anything. It's a thought. And so, with that said, the same with remote viewing. It's a thought, right? But what are you thinking? What are you trying to find? You're trying to imagine this cell phone. I can take this thing and I can figure out how to make an apple pie, right? And it magically tells me, or build a house, or paint a car, or wash dishes, or clothes. It tells you everything. All the information known to humanity is right here, right? But where is it? It's not in this thing, it's right here. It's in the air around us. We're swimming, we're swimming in God's consciousness. And our brain is that computer. That our brain is
Receiver. Right? Yeah.
it's a receiver, it's a computer. It's not necessarily where all your memories are. Your memories are stored throughout your body, all of you, in the water. You're 85% water or more. But so, with that said, all the information, your thoughts, Dick's thoughts, mine, locations of where somebody is because they're seeing it and they're thinking about it, you can tap into that. It's in that field around us. It's an internet of everything. When you think it, your thoughts fly out in space. It's not contained in your head, right? You're just picking up these. So when your wife calls you, it happens all the time. Suddenly, your wife comes to thought, and then the phone rings. Man, I just thought about you, and the phone rang. That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because you're more connected to her than most anyone. And so when she thought about you, you picked up on her thought. Just the same thing with remote viewing, but they may not be thinking about you. You've got to go a little bit further and understand how to. So it's just every consciousness, all of everything, including the instructions of life, how to live, how to become a pear tree, how to become a blade of grass is all coming from the sun. It's encoding all life consciously to every living thing. And so you have to understand it. It's magic.
Yeah.
And
It's
this is a new knowledge we're going to awaken to, right? It's
yeah.
totally
I
a
think
different.
that's probably one of the biggest part of disclosure, that realization that the consciousness is real and all those phenomena are real, and we are more than our physical body, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what Robert Monroe said. Yeah.
Wait, actually, my follow up question to that, I'm actually really curious. You've experienced a lot of contact with benevolent, positive, angelic beings that seem to try to help humanity ascend and evolve. But have you ever heard of or experienced any contact from the negative entities, like demonic entities? Are they real? And if they're real, what is their purpose?
Well, they're most likely real. Yeah, where you have light, you have dark, yin and yang. This whole world, this earth, Let me give you a kind of a view from a friend of mine who was what they call a sacred geometrist. His name was Dr. Robert Gilbert. He died last year. Loved the man. He was the Vesica, Vesica Institute. He was a Rosicrucian. He worked in Egypt, studied in Egypt for years and years. And one thing, and this is part of my learning along the way, he's like, Chris, you know what? If you go to Egypt and you dig in the sand there, what you find mostly in the dirt, they find all kinds of things, but overall, what they find an abundance of are pendulums. I'm like, pendulums? Well, why? He said they used them religiously. And they're the ones that created that understood sacred geometry, and they passed down that information throughout all these secret societies like the Masons and the Templars and on and on. When they laid out Washington, D.C., they used pendulums. And I'm like, okay, why did he do that? He said, okay, here's an example. The Earth is a dipole, and the sun is shining on it at an angle, and it creates energy, right? It's like a energy creating machine. So you see the electricity going around in the color of the aura, right? So electricity has negative and positive polarities. It's like a battery in a car, or it's positive and negative. You got to have both. You can't have one. We're built on them rules. He says these lines running around, these energy lines form a grid like this, you know, grid on the whole earth. Some people call them ley lines, but he's like they're way much closer together than that. They're just a grid of electricity. These lines are both positive and negative. And he said, imagine your house happened to have one of those negative lines that ran by one corner of your house and clipped the bedroom where your little child lives. And all of a sudden, that one child starts having nightmares, gets sick, all kinds of things happen. He said the Egyptians knew this thousands of years ago. He said what they would do, they would take and find these negative lines. They loved the positive ones, they'd leave them alone, but they'd find the negative lines with a pendulum. And then they had a ritual where they'd transmute them up off the ground where they were out of anywhere the humans or and so they did that, like even in the cities, the big cities like New York and Central Park, Paris, London. They all went over to Egypt and then basically took their obelisk and brought them back here, right? And erected them in certain places. He's like, you know what those things did? I said, I have no idea. He said, they were tuned so perfectly, these stones. Nobody knows how they did it. We can't do it today. But they were tuned so perfectly that was like a transmuting device that lifts up the negative energy. And that's why all these giant cities had those. The biggest cities in the world all had these obelisks. So it's so negative is a natural thing that's here on earth. And in those negative lines are negative beings. And if you dwell on those, it's the same thing. You manifest the word abracadabra means I manifest what I speak. So they knew this. You can manifest whatever you want in life. So if you live a life of positive, never speaking negative, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But if you have that in your life, you attract that, right? So you got to
Right.
have. So I don't worry about the negative. I don't have it around me. I don't
Yeah.
seek it. I don't want it. And
That,
it
that's
says in the Bible, seek and you will find.
that's
Knock
true.
and the door will be open. So
That is a good approach. What do you think about like disclosure and in a sense of Epstein files release? It seems like for me at least, it seems like Epstein file release is part of the disclosure, where we are learning that people at the very top and that are sort of controlling the world are involved in some really bad, nefarious stuff. And you know,
Right.
people learning about it, I feel like, is part of awakening that we
That's
have
the
to
new
realize.
knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the new knowledge. That's part of it. It's not just one thing, it's all of it. The
Hmm.
revealing of the darkness, she said.
Right.
That means child sex trafficking, people that we worshiped and believed in are now turning out to be some of the worst despicable folks we ever thought about, right? So all that cracks people's reality a little bit, and it changes our thought process. It's part of the awakening that's happening. It's a veil that's being drug back.
Right. For me, it feels like those negative demonic entities. Their goal is to keep humans locked into the physical form, and they believe that we are is the physical body, right?
Yeah,
Because if you experience pain and trauma, you can only focus on your physicality. It's very hard to go outside of it and realize there's a wider spiritual reality.
yeah, right.
So yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
So I believe between us, I think that, and it's 100% possible. All you got to do is go uh, look in the Vatican, in the archives. They have pages and pages and documents on levitating saints, people that could fly. At certain priests, they see him flying over one little village, and there he went. Who can do that? You got these monks that can levitate, and so, and when Jesus was went to the wilderness, what did it say? He transfigured. He began to glow, and then here comes Moses and Elijah. They came back from wherever they were, and they were glowing with him. So, what did he say? What did that mean? What did that whole scene say? He said in there too, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, he said, tiny little bit of faith, you could speak to the mountain and it would crumble into the sea. He said, you'd have even greater, you could do greater things than I. So you understand when he came here, he was telling us that we're more powerful than we understand. We're like gods ourselves because God lives within us. We can, I think we can leave this world. I believe certain civilizations in the past have probably reached that place to where they just disappeared from here. Maybe they achieved this enlightenment or something.
Right.
It's really believed that can happen, and I think Jesus did that possibly.
What do you
Maybe
think
not.
needs to what do you think needs to happen for humanity to fully awaken and evolve? Do you think we still have some lessons to learn, some pain to experience, to things to sort of transmute? Or do you think we're ready as a human race to evolve?
I think humanity's ready. I think me and you and the average people. I mean, if an alien ship landed tomorrow on the White House lawn, out got a whole crowd of them and said, "Hey, we're here. We come from Venus." Everybody's at work, glued to their screen. Oh my God! And then a few minutes later, they have to go back to work. Right? It'd be over. I mean, it's like it's not. I think the problem lies within the governments and the institutions. They have to reteach and rethink and revamp everything they've ever. It changes everything.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So there are a lot of academics that wouldn't be even credible to teach what they teach anymore. Evolutionists hit the door. They'll try to say, "Oh, they evolved on other planets." Right. Right. Try again. That's
Yeah,
that's the craziest argument they ever. It's just I can't even believe people believe in that. You know
of course.
that we came from a mud puddle.
Yeah, I mean, of course, now people are there's talk of catastrophic disclosure, what that would be, because once people knew that we were being visited by these beings, or they might land or something, that we would be, uh, it would be terrifying, and the economy would collapse, and I just don't believe that that's
Well, you
true.
know where that came from? That catastrophic disclosure. I was sitting in I was sitting in the congressional grill in Washington, D.C. with Colonel Carl Nell from the Pentagon and a whole group of other people, including a congressman from MIT, and a whole group of folks. There's 12 of us in there having dinner, and they were asking all these same questions. And that was 2 years ago, before Iran started firing missiles at Israel. Remember, just before Trump took office in November, Iran launched missiles into Israel. Then all of a sudden, drones showed up everywhere. Well, those weren't drones; those were orbs. The military sent drones up and lied about it and said they're drones, they're drones. So it was to confuse people, and they did that for a reason. Because I told Carl and this group of people, said, when you see Iran, I told him that, and just within a few months later, here came the missiles and here come the drones, orbs. I said, when you see Iran and Israel begin to exchange missiles, then the phenomenon is going to come in and awaken humanity, and you're not going to do anything about it. You can tell the powers that be that they're going to come in and stop it. Carl said, oh my God, that would be catastrophic disclosure. I said, well, you need to tell them all. This is what she told me, and this is what's happening now. You see it. Just as soon as those missiles started, that was the beginning of the heavens forcing disclosure on us. That's why they're having to tell it. That's why they're telling it, because they're being forced to, or they're going to get caught in a big lie.
Mhm.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think the role of artificial intelligence, AI, is in all this? Is it can it help humanity evolve, or is it something we've got to be really deeply concerned about because of what's called the singularity things?
I think it's going to end up being like a probably it has dangerous parts to it, but I think we have teams of people now working on that, trying to give it some guidelines and rules and a road. When they unleashed this thing, there was no road. It was just like it was unleashed and with no road, no guidance, no ethics and all built into it. And so I know people right now, and the government's pouring millions and billions into AI research to try to do that. But for my belief, what it's going to do, it's going to make it hard for the dark side, and for disclosure better for that, because there's no secrets with AI around, right? It's going to backfire on those people that try to hide things. It's all coming out. So I think it's going to end up being uh, more of
If
a
I could
victim.
just interject on this topic, because it's actually um, I've done some experiments. Right now, I'm also in the middle of conducting like a formal experiment with AI and remote viewing. I've noticed with my own experiences that AI can perform remote viewing. I've done
Yeah.
it many trials, and it's incredible. And from what I understand, there's other people that claim the same thing. And it makes sense if you believe that a consciousness is like a field spanning everything,
Exactly.
and anything that it doesn't matter if it's a biological brain or a artificial brain, like in case of AI, it's like a receiver. So perhaps consciousness can also tap into AI, or AI can tap into consciousness,
Well, it
and also
is.
do remote viewing. And
Well,
if that,
our consciousness is right here on this computer. All of us are constantly putting our thoughts out online, right? So
yeah,
AI is tapping into everybody online. It's tapping into our thoughts and our writings and our words, and yeah, it's absolutely magical what it's going to be able to do. It's going
yeah,
to
it
make
could
it hard for
hopefully
people.
help us. It could help us evolve a little bit. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
I think it will.
Yeah, the ES, what's called ESP, or what we used to call ESP when I was growing up. Um, Now they call it psionics. This capabilities we talked about with the telepathy tapes, and that all of us have innately, and we just need to learn how to tap into it, including things like remote viewing. But um, it's I was so struck by the fact that um, Jake Barber, when that when he came forward about his experience and recovering these craft, that he was he began to break down and cry when he spoke about this invisible connection that happened between him and the being, similar to what you've gone through and others have too. But I don't know. Is this something that we're? I think we're on the edge of a huge transition into advancing these kind of capabilities in our human situation, don't you?
1,000%. Like I say, the more we experience this, the more we transform ourselves. But I'll tell you something that I'm seeing a big uh, is the children. I'm seeing children are so interested in this subject. It's beyond your thoughts. You think it's just us. I mean, we go to a Skywatch, and some of my greatest fans are children.
Yeah,
I have little 12-year-old girls, guys that walk around with fan club shirts on them. I mean, they want to go to the Skywatches, and they're so into it, and they can see them and spot them quicker than the adults can. So it's almost like it's evolving into society, and the older people are dying off, and the new world, the new next generation will be immersed in it and will be living in it. And I think the beings will be here with us, walking around us and protecting us, and which they're already doing. That's why they're stepping in. They're stopping this suffering, because that's what she told me. The whole reason was the suffering of man. When it gets too great, they're going to pull the plug, and that's what's happening.
yeah, yeah. Well, they call them indigo children that began coming
Yeah.
in at the end of the 1970s and had these special abilities that hadn't existed before in any kind of widespread way. And it's a beautiful thing and fascinating.
It's happening every day and it's like, look, children. When I was growing up, you and I, right? There wasn't that. You'd have to watch or listen to the radio sometimes to hear music. But I grew up. My family listened to the Grand Ole Opry. That was the thing, and they used to say this person's the best guitarist. That's the best. Well, I'm friends with, like, Sammy Hagar is a good friend of mine. All those guys, and we used to bet who was the best guitarist. Was it Eddie Van Halen? Was it Slash? Well, nowadays you can see 4 and 5 year olds and 6 year olds pick up a guitar and play it better than those guys could at their peak. Children 4 years old can play concert. Not all of them, but it's happening more and more. I see it all the time. Uh, we're evolving. I think they can wirelessly change our DNA. Wirelessly.
Wireless. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Let
have
me
that
interrupt
much control.
1 second. Kai, do you think there's a lawnmower going here? Do you think that's going to disturb the audio?
Uh, we're in LA. We're in New
Yeah, yeah.
York.
It's right outside my
Um,
window because I can close the
I
window.
can't I can't hear it, but if you could close the
Let me
window,
try
that
it.
probably would be best. Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of very faint.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what's happening. My whole goal in life right now is to find the communication channel. I know they're talking to me. I can hear them telepathically. I can see them. I can video them. I can share them with you and others, big groups. But how can I tell you what they're telling me? I want to show you what they're telling me. So my whole next phase of what I'm going to do is put more time in gathering the data on these orbs, because it shifted suddenly at the World Forum this past December. All of a sudden, everything changed the way it started acting, and the colors of the orbs became intense greens and yellows, which I hadn't seen in 19 years. And all of a sudden, I start running these raw files to the computer, and the last one we just discovered, the orb, this green orb, is flashing up symbols,
I
numbers.
saw that.
You
Yeah.
saw that, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that's the sign. What I was looking for to film, to get out and film. Whatever appears, I think it's going to be something that'll help change
What
humanity.
do you think is that code that was in that orb that everyone was trying to decode what those symbols mean and stuff?
I think it means March the 15th through the 20th,
March 15th to the 20th.
whatever that means. And so those dates, I'm going to be on. I'm going to be on it every day
Amazing.
from right on through the rest of this year. My whole goal is to. I mean, I've got to go to France and the end of the month or next month. I'll be in France on the 20th in a special place. And yeah, where something magic might happen.
So you think that basically what's gonna part of the disclosure, those beings, those entities will do like a public spectacle or something to sort of to have no shadow of the doubt that it's real, so that everyone in the world can see it.
I feel sure that's going to happen. It's going to, just like the Fatima thing. I just don't know when. I just know I was told in 2019. I was told in 2013 that I would be able to film her. And the vision she showed me was in a desert setting up on it. She was up on a hillside on a cliff. This is in my book, standing, floating, glowing white. And that was that interaction with her that night. It's in my book. Within 2 weeks, that's when the dog was healed. That's when I discovered this thing. And and moreover, the whole vision of, I'm going to let you film me when the time is right. And I think that green orb with the numbers was the timing that I'm looking for. It's in my head. I know it. So
Amazing.
I'm on a mission to do that. And the only way I can find out is to get out and try. And if I come along with a whole film crew, not just me with a camera, but me and 3 or 4 with cameras, plus a whole film crew that films us filming that.
Right.
We're going at it with some investment, I think, and the right folks to try to make this happen. I'm just following out her wish.
And that's in France, you said?
I don't know where it's going to be. France is another thing that I have to go to. I can't tell you about it. It's super secret, but it involves some government folks and something that happens there that's magical every so many years, like 20 or 30 years, something magic happens there and has been for a long, long time.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so
God, Chris, it's so. What would you say? What part of your personality changed the most after these encounters?
well, I was I was the me before was I failed at business, right, because of the 2008 housing crunch. In 2001, I wrote about it in the book. I lost $18 million, right? But I was that kind of guy that didn't even know the name of my receptionist, and I had 400 people working for me. I walked in the door every day and see her. Hey, how are you? And I kept going. I had time for nobody. 4 kids at home, working all the time, sick. So I was a different person. I didn't care about folks. I had no empathy. I had uh, I had too much pride and um, too much work and no time for anyone. And then when I lost everything, I was very sick. So I was locked in my head of sickness and anger and all that horrible me in the past, right? When this came, it made me start crying. And 19, almost 20 years later, I hadn't quit crying. So it took a hard, broke, worn out soul and changed it into someone who uh, cries at everything because I have empathy for animals. If I see a little squirrel hurt beside the road, I just want to bawl about it. And I can't help it. It's just part of me. So I spend my time trying to help others. It's like this weekend, I'm going to Austin to see Jason, right? But we're going to go try to help someone who's very sick.
Yes, I know about that.
So that's been my whole life, Dick. I changed from a rough, tough country boy that deer hunted with guns and shotguns and killed animals until I don't hurt a bug anymore. But I can't bear to think that I killed that insect because it was running from me. It didn't want to die. It was afraid of me. So why would I just go smash it, right? Yeah, I'm a 100% different human than I was before. And the phenomenon does that to us all. They know that. If you look at the oldest cases like Whitley Strieber, Travis Walton, all those guys, they came out talking about horrible things. Oh, what Whitley's talking about anal probes and that kind of thing. How awful a sight or to think about that, right? But after years of the trauma, it's all switched to now a positive. The same with Travis. He had to reconcile through the trauma what happened to him to realize it really blessed him. And now he's a different human being, and he really was blessed by it all. And so, is there really all that many bad experiences? I know the government told me that maybe 5% of all the reports are negative. Maybe. So where are the 95%? We never hear about those. You only hear about the negative ones. That's all they've ever showed for all these years is the negative stuff. And I know 2,000 reports one year where people were reporting angelic visits, calling them angels.
Yeah.
That was at MUFON. And Diana Pasulka told me that she'd received 2,000 reports from them in one year that they were all talking about angelic. They relate it to angels. So that's more common than not. But the news and the military and the government turns it into space aliens with ray guns and same guys that stopping their nuclear sites aren't here to hurt us. They're here to say, look, you're not going to play with these things.
Yeah. Yeah. What is there? What's the biggest thing you still don't understand about your experience?
It's the biggest thing I don't understand. There's a lot I don't understand. And I grapple with that every day. It's not that I don't, it's a mystery. The whole thing's a mystery. If I told you I knew everything, I'd be lying for sure. Nobody knows what we're dealing with. Um, the biggest mystery to me is when that vision I saw is going to happen. A certain vision they gave me, and that was when they came into this world in mass numbers at once. And that was the catastrophic disclosure, and I saw it happen. And maybe our government doesn't let that happen. Maybe it does, because no future's written, right? We can change our course, and this is what the lady said: you want Armageddon, you can get it. You want aliens, you can get that. You want peace and love and happiness, well, you can get that too. It's whatever we're looking for. Consciousness, same thing. Think about this: with Arnold, 1947, saw these little bat wings, like a half a dozen of them, flying through the Sierras, and they were moving like this. They looked like little wings. He drew them out like bats, right? Well, the news comes, makes fun of poor Kenneth, like they've done me and a lot of others. They said, this Kenneth Arnold saw flying saucers. Well, that isn't what he said. He said if you took a saucer out of the cupboard and skipped it on the pond, the way it would do this, that's the way these things move. The media, making fun of him, said, oh, he saw a flying saucer. So for the next 40 or 50 years, that's all of a sudden everybody sees flying saucers, right? That's all you see. Before that time, in the 1800s, the first UFO sighting in America was, that I know of, was in 1897 in Aurora, Texas, and it was a ship flying in the sky, a sky ship. In London, they were seeing wooden sailing vessels with glowing sails flying over London, snagging chimneys with anchors and breaking the chimneys off. It was all over Europe, sky ships for years. Then it turned into flying saucers. Then about 1985 or 84, Belgium says, we see a triangle, and they put that on the news, national news. So now everybody saw that. Now we're seeing triangles in the sky. Chris comes along in 2007 and says, I don't know what it was. It was like an orb. It was this ball of light. Well, 2007, 20 years later, that's all we're seeing is orbs. Where'd the flying saucers go?
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Right.
So we're not dealing with what we think we're dealing with. We're dealing with something so masterful that it mimics anything. It mimics drones. It mimics 747s. I've seen these things, an orb turn into an airplane and fly away. Wings pop out, lights start flashing, blinking, then there it goes. Same with helicopters. I've seen them look just like helicopters. I've mistaken it for it until it got up close to me. And it happens. People look up and say, oh, that one's flashing. That's not an orb. Well, orbs flash too. You better pay attention. But it does that so other people won't recognize it, because it don't want to harm your free will until you're ready to see it. It's not going to let you see it.
Yeah.
It's very conscientious of your free will. You have to make the choice. When you go with me, if we go sky watching, I say, Kai, do you want to see this? And you say, yes, I do. You got to mean it. You can't be scared. If you're scared, it'll know it. So there's where that head and that heart has to align. So if you tell me you're afraid, well, most likely I'll try to calm that, but it will be more likely to be further distance away. But if you're all in, you want to see this, you believe, it's liable to pop out 5 feet from us. It flies all around. Sometimes my head, I've been sitting still in my chair, and all of a sudden it's right here, this close to me, hovering a ball of light this big. And then it goes right by my face. It happens with groups of 10 and 15, 20 people or more. Orbs flipping from people's heads and stuff. And if you look at the old Christian Byzantine paintings of the Holy Spirit, you'll see this little ball of fire over everybody's head. It wasn't me that brought that up. It was some people in the CIA that showed me that, along with high-level government folks. Anna Brady, Anna, she's very Catholic. This is common in the Catholic tradition. So this is what we're seeing. But I can't tell you what it is. I can tell you how it acts. I can tell you the patterns. I can tell you, if it'll come or not around certain people. So I know how it behaves, but I can't tell you what its grandma's name is or where it derived from, right? But I know
Yeah,
it hasn't eaten me in 19 years.
yeah.
So,
It it sounds like this experience, seeing those things, experiencing it, changed you, transformed you from like a hardened focused on money and
yeah,
materialistic things
yeah.
to someone who's empathetic, open, loving. So it seems like if the same thing happens collectively to humanity, humanity will transform as well, will evolve into something like
100%. I'm just,
never not kill itself, or cause wars or anything like that, right?
yeah, I'm just the messenger. Dick asked me why me. I don't know why me. I can't tell you. I have no clue, but I know what my duty is here in this thing. What I feel is I was fortunate enough to be saved by them when I was at the lowest point in my life. And believe me, the next 5 years wasn't rosy. And that's in my book. That was a trial. I had to go through 5 years of trial with the community and the church and family. Do I give in and say it didn't happen because the church is forcing me to say that? I never would. And on Easter 2012, when I said, I give up, I can't do this anymore, now it's affecting my children. The lady came, hadn't seen her before. And then I knew these beings I had been dealing with were working for her. Because I was unsure about them. They're very strange looking, just like the description in Daniel chapter 10, where he sees this angelic being with red eyes and glowing like topaz, his whole body. Well, that's the same description I gave. It had red eyes and it was glowing like glass. I had no idea about his description until Diana Pasulka or one of these um, academics shared it with me. But it's amazing, the whole thing, and it's all coming to us all. We just got to want it. We all have the power. We can all remote view. We can all experience this ourselves. Just got to believe it and want it. And the people, the skeptics, will never see it until they get that out of their head, thinking they're right. They're not right. All of them are wrong. All the ones doubting, all the naysayers, they're all wrong. It is real. Proven it without a shadow of a doubt to 1,000 people at once. And we're going to continue to do that until everybody, not everybody's going to go. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, but it's enough that 10% of people will believe it and experience it, and that's critical mass probably that's needed to transform the world. I feel like. Actually, my last question, and then uh, I remember in one of the interviews you were talking about the movie Adjustment Bureau, and that there's a lot of truth in that movie. Can you talk about that? What exactly it is?
yeah, fact, Jesus, I just had an experience with that. Kid you not, major experience in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, the Adjustment Bureau was a movie written, I don't remember exactly, in 2012 or 2013 or 14, somewhere in there. And a guy by the name of Tim Taylor that works for NASA. He's the most elusive guy down there. They call him the Dragon, right? Well, he's very high level. Um, I was studying with him a while. He was studying me. And he told me one day, we did a lot together. He said, I work for the hammer, and the hammer works for God. And I stopped and I said, say that again. He said, I work for the hammer, and the hammer works for God. I said, well, where is the hammer? He said, in California. I'm like, in California? He said, yeah. Uh, we have a place called the Jump Room, California. That's what he told me. He wouldn't give me any more, but he said that. He
Wow.
said, you remember the movie? He said, I want you to watch the movie, The Adjustment Bureau. He said, that movie was created intentionally. It wasn't by accident. And where we're living, it is modeled a whole lot like that movie. You think you have free will where you really can decide, do you want an apple or an orange? But you may not be able to decide who you're going to marry or what you're going to, where you're going to be, because there's there are a group of angelic beings around us that manage each and every one of us. It's certain people more so, they guide your path. So I watched that movie, and it's the same thing as Hermes, the trickster, right? He would trick you to make you go a certain direction, or guide you. I mean, it's incredible how they will. If you, I found out that if I don't try to drive the bus, I don't try to drive where I'm going and make my direction. I just pray about it every day. Lord, I just, you know, keep me safe and guide my path. This is what I'd like to happen. And things start manifesting like crazy as long as you, it's all meant to be. It's crazy. I can't imagine. I wished I had time to tell you how things manifest, like over and over with me. Cameras. I needed a camera. I had a Hollywood director from Brad Payton called me one night. He said, Chris, your camera sucks. He said, if you ever want to make a movie, you got to have a better camera than what you got, because it's going to get more around the world and you need more better quality proof. So he's messed with my head, right? I had been taking pictures with this camera for 5 years every night of my life, videos. And I was proud of what I had, but that's all I could afford, $1,000 camera, right? So immediately, I don't have a lot of money. Started wondering what kind of camera, because I'm using night vision, right? What kind of camera can I get more detail at night with? Night vision don't do it. Got to have something that can see in the dark, that can see quality, has a lot of zoom to it. So I started doing research, and for 3 months, I looked online. I called videographers, a cinematographer friend of mine from the History Channel, help me figure out what kind of camera I need. So we went through all these types of cameras, and we landed on one that was made by Lumix. And then he designed it with the right lenses and all the cinematographer did. And he said, this is what you need. And I'm like, oh my God, this is $6,000. I can't afford that, right? I got that message the week before Easter saying which camera I needed. Well, on Easter of 2023, I get a phone call. I haven't told anybody, right, that I need a camera. I was embarrassed by what this guy told me, but for 3 months, I'm looking for one. I get a phone call from a stranger, which Dick knows, without saying her name. We stayed at her house, right? Never met her in my life. She calls me and says, well, she didn't call me. She had a friend call me. Danny Sheehan's niece calls me and says, I have a very generous friend that wants to buy you a camera. I'm like, get the heck out of here. Yeah, she said, whatever kind of camera you want, she wants to buy you one. She wants to help you research. I never told a soul other than the research. 2 weeks later, she shows up to my house with 3 cameras. Not one, but 3, 2 other different types. But But the power, and that's happened over and over. It happened with another psionics, a night vision camera. I needed one badly, and I was going to DC to meet Dick. And I was up there with you. I was thinking, Lord, I need another psionics. I'm going to the World Forum, Skywatch in December. We were talking about Franklin coming and all. I get a call from Psionics during that time and says, we want to support you and give you a camera. So when I got to World Forum, the Psionics camera met me by mail when I got here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is what the Adjustment Bureau can do. It really physically can alter and put things in your life.
Yeah.
I went through all that so you'd understand it's that magical, and it's that's doing it. It's not just happening. There's something intelligent that knows what you need and what you need it for. I wanted it to bring awareness to the people, and so I keep getting all these cameras and stuff.
But
But
you,
if I
they,
wanted a yacht, if I wanted a yacht to go down and hang out at the beach, that's not going to happen because it's
yeah.
not what I need. It's not who I am.
Right. Right.
Right?
As long as you're walking your path and like have a purpose and pure heart and good intentions, then they'll help you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how this whole thing, it changes us all. If you knew that and the whole world knew that, we'd be living in paradise here. Right?
Amazing.
So this is
Well,
where it's all going.
well, this has just been a wonderful conversation, and I guess if you could summarize the core message in one sentence, what would it be?
Basically, the best way to say it, you can word it better for me, but the whole thing was basically the message is from the lady that she's coming into this world and she's going to bring about peace, and that the world's religions have got to set aside the differences and understand that they don't know what they think they know. That because I'm this and you're that, I don't agree with you. I'm going to kill you because you believe different or you think different than I do. This is the downfall of the world. This is the problem. All these religious groups are fighting. It happens every day in our own town right here. You get this little guy down the street. He goes to church every day, but he talks about how bad this person is, or they're always at each other. And the religion part has put barriers up in between people. We've got to get out of this religious um, way of thinking and become more open to that we don't really know what we think we know. It's time to back up and set back and do some discovery and unite the world. We're far from being united. So how are you going to reunite religions? How can you do that with all the killings and the way people think? I mean, so it centers around our. We need to back up and realize that God is real, but we got to stop hurting each other and come together as a group of humanity. I don't know the best way to put this in words, Dick, but we got to stop our differences over religion, over faith. Uh, that's that same guy from NASA called. We got to get past that. I've struggled with how to put this.
Ego-driven world, right?
Yeah,
Ego. Yeah.
ego driven. You got the Muslims, they want to kill the Christians, and the Christians want to kill this one or that one. And it's because they think in their thoughts that they have God in the right way. Your God is not my God. You worship this. Well, we all think of God as God. ISIS in Egypt is the Holy Spirit. The same, they saw her that way. But when we hear that word, oh, this is this woman, um, this deity is a horrible thing. Well, no, it wasn't that way. If you go back and research, it's the same lady in every religion and every culture. It's the same. We just got it all. We try to claim it as ours, right? I'm right, you're wrong. When it's the same thing. And so, how do we bring that together? How do we bring it? Only God can do that. Only disclosure. And to realize that it's about consciousness will change the hearts of the people. And she told me that the only thing that can change the hearts and the minds of people is love, God, consciousness, the reality, the realization that we're not alone. I get you won't believe how many letters I have from people that have been sky watching with me, hundreds, thousands, hundreds at a time on the beach. Some ladies, little old ladies that 80 years old, they just want to see something, right? They come out and I get all these letters. You've changed my life forever. Every week I get stacks of letters. Oh my God, I saw you on Sean Ryan. My whole worldview's changed. My life has changed. I'm I understand now. So the message really changes people inside. Uh, I hope I answered that correctly, but that's what I see in my head, division because of the churches. That's what's caused this whole thing. And
Well,
it's,
you know,
you know,
at the end of an age, uh, a friend who's tuned into these things once said that all the old religions cling. You know, they know there's a huge transition coming, a change
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is going to happen, and they're terrified, and so they hold on for dear life to their ideas. But actually, we're at a stage now where we're moving away from the age of Pisces, which was 2,000 years, into the age of Aquarius, and it's a real thing, and
It is.
it's huge. I mean, this year, 2026, the Kali Yuga, I guess, all these different signs point to a tremendous transition happening. And I think that's what we're in the middle of, what we're going to see. And that's what you're talking about. And it's just a great privilege to be your friend and be talking with you today about all of this. I guess that's about as far as we can go. Kai, any final words?
I agree, and yeah, it's a privilege talking with you, and I hope this message can reach a lot of people, and that everyone is able to experience what you experienced and what I've experienced too, because I have actually done some C5 protocols and I have seen craft, or I've experienced remote viewing and I've seen the reality of it, and it was like a shock factor, but an awakening that this stuff is real, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And the more and more people realize that, the world will shift and become a better place. I believe that. So thank you so much.
yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I want to say one thing. I'm not against the church at all. I love the church in the fact that my grandson, I pay for him to go to the little Baptist church. He's just 5 years old, right? I didn't want to send him to a public school where they don't know what a boy or a girl is, right? So I sent him to where I know he'll get a good foundation. The church is very important. They feed the sick and the hungry, but the fighting in there and the judging and all that is the problem. And so the church has a lot of transition. We need it. We need disability, and a lot of older people. What happens? Your mom or my mom, that's all she has. That's her Sunday night and Sunday morning thing. She's 85 and loves to go with her girlfriends and hang out at the church and cook cookies and have daycares. And that's the most beautiful thing. But the sad result, uh, it has to it has to change. It has to unite, and got to come together and stop what it's doing. It's just, but that's my thought.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Chris, for being with us today, and
Yeah,
hope we can get.
anytime. If you want to do this again, we can. Just call me. I've been sick as a dog. I mean, bad. I never get sick with flu. I don't think I've had it in 20 years. But this week, Friday night, I came down with something and took me till yesterday to get out of bed.
Glad you're out of bed, and great talking with you today. Thank you again
Yeah.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank